Welcome to Black Men Speak, a podcast that highlights ordinary Black men doing extraordinary things. I am your host, Keith Dent, and hey, it's hard to fathom that it is the end of summer. It has gone by like really quickly, and there has been a lot going on. I mean, kids are already back in school already. Um, my son doesn't go back till a couple of weeks, but we're already gearing up for the school year, and it's a big year coming up. So we're excited, but that's not what we're here for today. But I just wanted to mention that. I hope all of you have enjoyed your vacation if you've been anywhere, or if you're going for the holiday. Hopefully, you'll have a safe and happy one, and gear up for this year as we head into 2024. So today, since folks have probably have spent money on vacation, or you know getting ready to prepare to use money for college, today we're going to be talking about equity. Equity, owning things, but primarily when it comes to investments. So according to the Federal Reserve Board in 2019, when it comes to the stock market, equity investments, only 34% of Black Americans households own equity investments, and primarily we're talking about the stock market, versus 61% of white families. And then the average value of the stocks that they own is about $14,400 versus $50,600. So that's a big gap there. That's almost three times as much. But there's so many things that add to the disparity, which we're really not going to get into today. That could be at least two or three conversations. But some of those things are high unemployment rate, access to jobs that even have retirement accounts, and then just a lack of education itself. If you don't, for the most part, if you don't really understand how the stock market works, you're not going to just delve into it, because it can be risky, and we'd rather buy a sure thing like sneakers. we know that we know what the sneakers look like. They know how they're going to feel, or whatever those things for that matter. But those things are particularly consumer items that aren't necessarily going to return any investment for the money that we're actually put in. And I didn't get those numbers, but I'm sure our guests may be able to shed light on that. We tend to be consumer oriented, and our value or how we feel about things come from purchasing things, and not necessarily owning and then saving our money for a rainy day. And our today's guests, they chose to do something about that. And it's the great thing about, they're a father-son team. Uh, Kevon Chisholm and Kamari Chisolm, father and son. And they're this, I guess, co-CEOs of Black Wallstreeter Consultation Services. And they also have a nonprofit called Junior Wallstreeters. And their sole focus is to decrease the wealth gap between disadvantaged groups and white Americans. So today, on today's show, we're going to talk about their journey and how they got there, why they decided to go into this. And they're going to kind of give us a little bit of ins and outs on investing if you've never invested before, or if you feel you're an intermediate investor and you want some tips on how to take your investments to the next level. So I'll bring them up here. We have Kamari, the son, on the right. Am I right? And at the bottom, we have Kevon, the father, who is I guess, I don't know if he's the brainchild, but I would assume he's the brainchild of this venture, and he brought his son along. So how are you guys doing today?
Oh, we're doing well. Thanks for having us. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And yes, Kamari, thank you guys for coming on today. So, Kevon, we'll start with you. Um, So I know that. Give me a what is the Black Wallstreeter Consultation Services?
So Black Wallstreeter Consultation Services was first launched actually 5 years ago in June. We celebrated unofficially 5 years in June, and that's our investment club component. Our motto is building wealth through investment clubs. Um, uh, so it was about 5 years ago, a little bit more than 5 years ago. I went to a national investment club conference as the president of our family investment club, Umoja Investment. I was representing them, and we just celebrated 20 years in
Mm,
March. So when I was at this conference, it was hundreds of people there, and I felt like there was not enough people like me there in attendance. So I came back. I remember this very, very well. This was in March, and in June, um, I launched Junior Black Wall Streeter Consultation Services. I did the paperwork and so forth, and I named it Black Wall Street, and to pay homage to Black Wall Street, the community in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I wanted us to try to revive that type of togetherness that they had in our community, and I wanted this business to focus on that. And so that is investment club starting investment clubs, managing, organizing investment clubs is Black Wall Streeters' primary focus. And the focus is also is to address some of those numbers that you mentioned, those very low numbers of the participation of African Americans participating in the stock market. And so we try to help people to form investment clubs, which is a group of people. I like to say 10 to 20 people getting together for three reasons. One, to become financially literate. If needed, the members can meet once a month, become financially literate. Two, to pool their resources together, thereby decreasing of risk and using their resources to invest in the stock market. You don't only have to invest in the stock market. We have people that like to invest in real estate or stock market and real estate. And to come to the third reason is to just have a good time,
mm,
to tackle some of these issues, but also getting together. And that's what we've been doing for the past 15 years, our investment club, Umoja. Um, I say 15 because we're getting older and the having the fun and stuff that kind of went away. We just kind of take care of business and keep it moving, but we're still in existence after 20 years.
wow.
And yeah, yeah,
So was the conference the NAIC conference?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Because oddly enough, which I meant to mention in my intro, that we actually had an investment club
Okay.
way back, but before with a group of young married couples. But then when the kids came, that kind of splintered us, and then also, which I'd love to get in, your take on it. We also had different investment styles, and since maybe we weren't family, that had
Yeah,
that kind
yeah,
of made things a little challenging. So, but we'll get to that. I just wanted to go back a little bit because I know you said you started 15 years ago, but I wanted to know, what was your since Kamari, you brought your son along, but what was your adolescent life like? I see you grew up in Newark, and what was it like in regards to like investment and your knowledge, things of that nature?
yeah. So growing up in Newark was pretty tough, man. I grew up in a tough environment. Um, saw a lot of violence, lot of crime, and and I was raised by a single parent. My mom raised my brother and I, and and she was on a public assistance, and so I saw a lot. I mean, there were times when we were evicted out of our apartment, and there were times when we didn't have lights because my mother couldn't afford to pay the light bill. or she couldn't afford to pay the light and the gas bill. So, and and I say that I'm glad my son is here because I want him to know, like, this where your parents are at now is not where we started, and that's why he goes and stay with his grandmother in Newark. And I tell you, when he went there about 5 years ago, he's 16 now, and he can probably share his experience. He went to play basketball in Woodbury Park with his grandmother, and she's also was a former public school teacher, so she's comfortable. But his ball rolled down to the other court where some of the local kids were playing, and they were not really excited about giving him back that ball. And if his mom, his grandmother, didn't say get that ball back, he might have not had that ball. And I told him these kids in this environment, some of them, when they don't have stuff, they take. And he's pretty fortunate. He's not living in that type of environment now, but that's what we grew up in, right? People wanted something, still do. They take. And that's really unfortunate. But I'd say from that experience, right? From that experience that I grew up in, that is what when we get to Junior Wallstreeter, that is what Junior Wall
Mm,
Street is all about. My
right.
personal experience.
Right.
Putting it
Kamari,
in
was
the
that
financial
was
literacy.
it was that a culture shock for you when that thing happened?
Yeah, that was definitely I didn't really expect it. I was kind of shocked that he just wouldn't, give me the ball back. But I don't think I went back to the park after that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, not just because he took the ball, just probably because I grew out of basketball and I was like, I don't really like, want to go to like a new environment because I don't know what will happen.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, and those kind of things can be a little shocking when especially when it's happened to you and you're not used to the environment and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. But that's I'm sure that's tough. So, with that said, fact that you grew up where your mom had to make tough choices, lights versus the gas bill, or rent or what have you, and those struggles. And so that means that you didn't really get a lot of financial literacy information growing up. So how did you make the leap to? Because I see you. I listened to previous podcasts that you economics major, so I found that fascinating. How did you end up getting to that?
Yeah, so I'm definitely not telling people. I'm a descendant of financial illiteracy, and it was definitely passed down to me. And um, when I went to college, I went to Drew University. Let me say this: when I went to college, I went to Drew University in Madison, New Jersey, and that three things were instrumental in where I am today. Happened when I was at 18 years old. I was at Drew University. One, I went to a predominantly white campus, which was Drew University, and those folks were not really welcoming and at the time on that campus. As an African American, that being a predominantly white person, that was an eye opener for me, right? Even coming from Newark, they made it plain and simple. Like they didn't
Mm,
hide. Some did not hide that they didn't want you there.
mm,
Two, I read the autobiography of Malcolm X. My um, the winter of 1998, January, we were off school. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, and then three, the in July, the summer of July 1988, I went to Africa. I went to Egypt. So those three things changed my life, right? That's why I am today, who I am today, why, right? Majoring in economics at Drew was sort of like by accident, right? Because one of the main reasons was I had this economics professor my freshman year. He was sort of like borderline Marxist, and he was just really anti-capitalist, and he was just instrumental in my thinking, right? I
mm, mm.
knew in economics I could learn, and I did learn about money. I was introduced to the stock market in my senior senior. I don't know what they call it now, but it was a senior requirement that I had to take, and I took
Okay.
investing. It was a introduction to stock market or something like that, right? And that's how I was introduced to the stock market. But I still graduated from college financially illiterate, though. I didn't, and
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, economics had very little bit to do with financial literacy. I mean, I can understand like the economy, like monetary, fiscal policy, supply and demand, but not like the importance of having an emergency fund.
Okay.
That was from getting evicted. That was
Mm.
from being evicted or not having your lights on. So it was like real life experiences I had to kind of learn later, you know. Um, but
So
it,
what you're saying, even though you had graduated from college, the the financial knowledge did not, or the, what you learned in school didn't carry over until the experiences you had that really kind of shaped that you need to start to change.
yeah, Drew was a great experience, you know, in total. But I have my master's and I have my law degree. After law school, I still was financially illiterate. So it was none of these degrees made me financially literate.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so that means that you had to seek out this knowledge.
yeah, I
And
had to
so
seek out. Yeah,
what kind of prompted you to do so? Because I think even in our communities now, even and I guess my even take myself for example, not constantly. I mean, I know the concepts and things of that name, but constantly making it part of my everyday learning. So, what made you decide to pursue this knowledge that you could bring to others?
yeah. So, and you mentioned about bringing Kamari along. I wanted him when we started Black Wall Street. I wanted him, and I asked him if he wanted to be a part of it. But I wanted him to experience how to run a business firsthand. He might not want to work for anyone. So by being a part of Black Wall Street, when we saw, he could see me the struggles of starting a new business. He could visualize this, and hopefully he can take this experience on and say, yeah, I want to start out my own business, or no, I don't. So I keep him along, and more importantly, like that kid from the Weekway Park experience, what we do with Junior Wallstreeter, we try to help underserved communities, right? That's what our focus is. So he gets to give back, right? At this early age, he's been giving back. 4 years. So he's been giving back since he's 12. Since he was 12, he's been participating and trying to
Mm,
help other kids, right?
okay.
So Keith, um, it was just I got tired of just missing out, right? So losing out on like my retirement portfolio, just like 1 year and doing my financial illiteracy phase. Like 1 year, I remember this very well in like 2006, 2007. I'm looking at my statement, and this is all I ever did with it. I mean, I made $100,000 in 1 year, right? Then the next year, I lost like 150, and I'm still not getting this right. I'm just like,
Mm,
because the economy tanked, and this is what you mentioned early on, right? Many of us don't realize we don't want to have anything to do with the stock market because we're afraid of it, right? And I learned this going with this business with Black Wall Street. I learned this. We're afraid of the stock market. We don't trust it. We think it's some type of scheme. I was told that by a good friend of mine, right?
mm,
So, and mind you, that's my good friend telling me that the stock market is a scheme. I'm like, whoa, maybe I need to find some other friends because you thinking I would be participating in something that's a scheme for 30 years, right?
right, right.
Like, wow. But okay, we don't, all of these things about being afraid or don't care about the stock market, not realizing that our retirement accounts are directly associated with that thing that we don't want to be a part of. And so after losing that money, right, that year, I was like, okay, I need to change. Because if I did not lose that $150 that year, I'd be closer to retirement now, right? So I had to learn the hard way. I had to learn the hard way, and then I just was like, you know what? I looked at our experiences too, right? Like it just dawned on me that this fear of being evicted, this fear of losing our home, this fear of not being able to afford something, just made me realize that if a disaster happens, like if I lose my job or my wife lose her job, what are we going to do? Like seeing how I grew up with my mother and just not having enough, I realized that okay, I need to become more financially literate and do the things that exhibit that, right? Like so when we talk like so when I say this whole experience is like okay, financially literate people have an emergency fund, right? 3 to 6 months of their income set aside in case of an emergency. My mom didn't have that. So we live in check the paycheck. And I didn't want to have that life. And I didn't want my son to experience that himself.
Mhm.
And I didn't want
Mhm.
other individuals, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
like simple things like growing up and not these experiences I share with the kids, right? Like our home was broken into in Newark right after Christmas season. They stole everything.
Mm.
All of our Christmas gifts that my mother had was able to scrounge up to afford. But you know what? What if she would have had renter's insurance?
Mhm. Mhm.
Renters, you like renters, you bet. And until my mother had a stroke 3 years ago, she had renter's insurance at 70 something years old now. She made sure whenever she's still renting, she had renter's insurance. So, like,
Right. Right.
just those things that we think is like common knowledge, right? But it's not. And when we teach the kids that, and it's fun, it's very ironic that 2 years ago we had a kid that was like, his house was from Tennessee. Their house was broken in. And he was like, "Man, I wish my mom would have had renter's insurance." You better believe they have renter's insurance now, though.
Right. Right.
Right?
Right.
So these just little experiences that I can reflect upon on my own experience that make me realize that you know what, I do not want our family to go through the same experiences,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I had to educate myself, educate my wife, educate my son, so he doesn't have to go through that same experience
Right.
that we went through.
Right. Well, so that and that's great. And Kamari, so I want to jump to you because I know we talked about the junior Wallstreeters, and your dad has really talked about the importance of why he brought you along uh, in this venture. So I wanted to ask you, when did you first well, let me ask this first. When your dad asked you, were you reluctant to get involved? Because it's not something that kids probably get involved if early on. Hey, kids are playing video games and sports and doing all this other stuff. So when your dad asked you, how did you feel about it?
I was definitely hesitant, especially being so young. And I realized later, and that it was just a way for me to be able to earn money and for me to be able to be financially literate and more set for my future. Because like, I can't work a job at 12, but I still have things that I want to get. And at that time I was planning to buy a car, this luxurious car, this Lamborghini, and I didn't know, my hopes were like way too high that I can't, afford a Lamborghini now that's 4 years later, and I'll be able to drive soon. um, but just working towards certain things that I can be able to buy for myself, knowing that I know how to invest in the stock market and I know how to be financially literate.
My man, you got luxurious taste. How much is that car? How much is that car worth? Or how much did it cost? Sticker price.
I don't know the exact price, but I think it has to be somewhere over $200,000 probably.
Okay. Oh, so you just saw it and you're like, oh, that's the car. That's the car I
Yeah, I saw
want.
someone driving it and I was like, "Who, it can go fast. It's nice. I gotta have it."
I hear you. I hear you. Um, so you started at 12. So when did you kind of figure out you really enjoyed investing and that you were really good at it?
Probably around maybe 13, 14. After like a year or so I started. My dad helped me find out what stocks to buy, what ETFs to buy. And you don't really, like something per se until you start, being good at it or until you start winning. So if
Okay.
I start losing money, that probably changes my whole experience. Because I'm like, I'm not good at this, so why would I bother spending more time at it? But when you start gaining money, when you start winning, and you like that, you like that feeling of gaining money and buying new things, then it starts to motivate you to want to invest more and want to, find out different ways and learn more about the stock market and learn more about being financially literate. So maybe I don't have to work so long, because if I have my money working for me, then it limits the time that I need to work.
Oh, okay. And do you remember the first stock that you purchased?
It was Zoomies. Zoomies is like, an athletic store, kind of like Vans. It's located in malls.
Okay.
I was looking at like Under Armour, Dick's. Since I play sports, a lot of companies around that area, but they weren't rated well, and I didn't, when I was tracking them, I wasn't liking the progression. So Zoomies was the first stock that I purchased.
Okay. Is it still trading well, or because I know it's a retail, so I know that's probably tough.
Yeah, I think I sold it a couple years ago. It wasn't doing as well as I wanted it to, but I did have it for about 3 years. So it was
Okay.
actually doing pretty well.
Okay. All right. Oh, awesome. So since we do have a lot of young people, I think, are watching today, what would you say is the most important things that young people should know about investing? You can give me three things, 3 to 5 things.
Okay. I think some of the most important things to learn is that to invest in what you know. So, if I'm not a big computer guy, I'm not gonna invest in like, some microchip company that I don't know a lot about, because it's going to be harder for me to, follow. But if I'm a big sports guy and I like Nike, then maybe it'll be way easier for me to follow Nike. If I like, LeBron, he's with Nike, he releases a new shoe, I'm already going to know because, I like LeBron. But when you should invest in what you know, that doesn't mean you should invest in everything that you know. I was a big Steph Curry guy and I liked Under Armour, but I didn't buy Under Armour just because I like Steph Curry. I didn't buy it because it wasn't doing well. So I think when you start
Mm,
investing, you have to start looking at things that you know and things that you like. Apple, I have an Apple phone, Apple computer. Those are things that are around me. And I also think one of the most important things is to stay patient because, especially over the years, my portfolio has taken hits, big hits, and also taken big gains. But, through the gains and the losses, I think I still carved out a nice gain because there's going to be ups and downs, no matter what. So you have to stay patient, invest in what you know, and also make sure that your account has good diversification because you don't want to put too many shares into one stock because if it's having a bad day, you're losing all that money. Vice versa, if it's having a good day, you're gaining, but you don't want to be an all or nothing account. You want to have diversification in your account so that even on a bad day, you're still not losing as much as you could be because you're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
yeah, and that's a good segue. Because you talked about you didn't invest in Under Armour because you saw it wasn't performing well. But what is sort of the research that you did in order to come to that determination that kids, young investors need to know what to look for?
So I look at analyst reports on Charles Schwab, which is what the company that I used to invest, and they have a lot of analyst reports about the stock. And then I look at they have like the charts. It says 2 year progression, 6 month, like a month, a week, a day, and then I also try to track it for at least a couple of weeks to see that where it's going. I don't want to make sure it's not dipping too low, or if I buy it, it's just going to go lower. Maybe if it drops a little bit, then I should buy it because, buy it when it's lower so you can buy more shares. Try to see. Normally, I look for a small but steady increase up to know that if I buy it, it's going to stay the same. And lately, over the summer, I looked at a lot of analyst reports and I looked at Yahoo Finance to see how good the stock was doing consistently enough to know that I should purchase the stock.
Okay. And in the report, and I know we don't want to get too technical, but was there any in the report itself? Are there any specific benchmarks that you use to help you decide if it was a good performing stock versus a bad one?
Well, on once you click on a stock, there's like a bunch of different analysts, and they all have different opinions. Some, rated, some it's like it's like a score A through F scale. Some rated at A, some rated at F, some rated at C, D, and then they have their reasons. A lot of times, I look for minimum, a B to an A when I'm first purchasing a stock. And I look for consistency throughout those reports to make sure that it's an A through at least to a B. If I see, at least, majority of the analysts have it A through B, and then they'll have like a little blurb, and you can see like the date when they wrote the report. Got to make sure,
Mm-hmm.
I have to make sure that the date is, current, at least like a month or so to make sure that it's not falling off. And then they'll say something like trending upwards, or they'll say goodbye. They'll say long term, short term. So then I'll know what I'm in for if I buy the stock.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah. Well, so Dad, we're gonna get back to you. Let's fill in the gaps a little bit, especially for those adults that may want to, I guess, delve a little deeper, especially for the beginners. Um, did your son do a good job? And what other additional things could we add to that?
Yeah, I'm really impressed. I'm impressed with my little guy there. He's really. I'm like, whoa. So he is listening to me. I just got a text from one of our parents that is listening. Oh man, this is just gonna make my day. Yeah, I think Kamari was looking for revenues because I always tell him sales revenues.
Okay.
Revenue has to be on the rise. The company sales have to be on the rise. So and that's what Kamari is saying. Consistently increasing. The sales every quarter are consistently increasing. Now, I do want to pause and say we're definitely not financial specialists. We're not like certified. So we're really for beginners. Like, and I know you're not saying that we are, Keith. I just wanted to for the
Hmm.
listeners.
I
We're just
understand.
really beginners, and Kamari is definitely in there in there for the long run. And Keith, one of the questions you did ask, and I just want to just bring it back um, briefly when we mentioned that with Kamari, is I took that opportunity right when he asked me about the car because he literally asked me, "Can I get him that car when he gets older?" And I'm like, I'm driving like I was driving a BMW at the time, but I'm driving now Volkswagen and a GTO, and he's like now a Lamborghini. I'm like, do you see? I'm like, so, but I use that opportunity and for parents to capitalize on it. Say, okay, you know what? You want that car? I'm going to show you. You do that. Because he was investing before we started the business.
Hmm.
He was investing 6 months before he was 11. So I took that opportunity to say, hey, look, you know what? I'm going to give you some money to invest in the stock market. You want to get this car? This is how you can do it. Because mommy and daddy can't buy no car like that. That's not happening. Because that means we
Right.
take money out of a retirement account. That's not happening. So, and so I gave him the tools. If he wanted this car bad enough, he had the tools. Now, I'm
Hmm.
not saying he would have the money in the years and $100,000, but once he gets old enough, he'll be able to do that.
Right.
Right. So, but again, Keith, we can kind of merge these conversations, and this is what we try to do with our listeners, right? No one, no one, and this is with financial literacy, no one should be investing in the stock market unless they have money to lose. So if you don't have an emergency account, you don't have an emergency fund where you have 3 to 6 months set aside in case of an emergency. We say 3 to 6 months, we mean 3 to 6 months of your expenses set aside
Mm.
in a separate account. You should not be investing in the stock market. Miss G, our financial literacy teacher, we were working with families from a homeless shelter, and we had some of the parents in there investing to pay bills for the next month. No,
Mm.
it's like
Hmm.
no, and not only that, they were investing in cryptocurrency to
Wow.
pay bills. I'm like, what? I was like, I mean, this is an adult. It's like, no, no, no. Because the stock market is like up and
Mm.
down,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you don't know. We don't condone that. We don't advise people do that. So if you don't have money that you can stand to lose, that you could just say, okay, I'm going to invest $25 a month in the stock market, 50, 100, whatever. If you can't say bye-bye to that money, then you don't need to be invested in the stock market. This is not for you right now. Get your emergency fund set aside and then invest, right? And the other thing Kamari mentioned, he talked about his ETFs. Like a lot of people, we don't, those are exchange traded funds, right? There's a lot. What are those, Kamari? What are those?
Exchange traded funds, ETFs, are like a basket of stocks put under one roof, which is like the name of the ETF. My best ETF is QQQ, which has a little bit of Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, Alphabet, which is Google, Tesla in it, and it's doing really well.
So like Kamari said that, right? So he said his diversification, right? So he has his ETFs and he has his stocks. But his stocks are not doing really well. And part of that is because his selections, because I really do try to have hands off and let him learn by experiencing his gains and losses. And like he said, his first stock, right? Zoomies. Keith, I tried to get him to sell that stock. I said, because the malls were closing,
Right.
and his people are not going to malls, and he is true. He is my son. He was like, because I told him to do it, he said, I'm not doing it. And he did not sell it. Keith, he did not sell it. I'm just joking. He decided, he was like, I'm not going to sell that. And he made a good decision because they made more money because they kicked in their online sales and they were doing very well. So I said, okay, all right.
I said, all right, I'm on it. Okay. Nice.
I let him make his own decision.
Okay.
And he did really well.
Fantastic.
But yeah, it's just when I think sometimes people don't understand and they get turned off. They get turned off really easy. Like, oh, I put my money in the stock market and I lost it. Yeah, it's not an all-win thing, but if you stay in it for the long term, right? For the long term, and we teach our kids to be long term versus short term.
Right.
And
so you mentioned and that's a concept itself, having an emergency fund first. So what are some of the other concepts that when a beginner gets in investing, that things that they should know?
Yeah, I'm going to take a little bit from Kamari. Like, you should track, right? You should track your stocks. You don't have to buy so quick. So like Kamari said, if kids or adults, or if you shop at Amazon, or like if you shop at Target, the first, we like to encourage our people to be investors more than consumers. Because right now, as you mentioned, we consume a lot, but we don't invest. So you can spend $150, $160 on an Apple stock versus the phone being $1,500. So why not buy the stock versus the phone? Because it's not tangible, right? But we encourage you to invest in things, is what Kamari said, but track that for a few weeks. Try to learn, meaning track the stock, its gains and losses, and try to understand how the stock market works, right? Because if you're so new to it, and I would take our class or take a camp, don't just go in it alone, right? And that's why we say join an investment club, because it's not your own money. It's you put in a pool of resources together, right? And then so it's tracking, right? Learning how the stock market works, investing in what you know, what you use, what you're familiar with, right? Then, as Kamari said, again, look at that financial news channel. Don't be afraid of that cable channel that you never turn to, that CNBC, that MSBC, where they're talking about, just get a little bit of it, 15 minutes, where they're talking about the stock market is up, stock market is down. And now is a great time because inflation is so high. They always are talking about the high inflation rate. They always are talking about how interest rates, and try to learn how they all work together, right? And Kamari again said it, diversification, man. Don't put all your money in one basket. But if you want to put it in the basket, look at an ETF. Like Kamari, right? So Kamari, you want to share experience when he bought QQQ, right? And it was doing really well. It was doing very well, right? And what did you do? He won. He was in a speech contest, right? He was in a speech contest down here. when he was in the 6th grade. He came in second place, so he won money. We're not talking about we're rich people that he just have thousands. No, he won. He came in second, right? He won $250. So I said, look, Kamari, if you invest that money, I will match it and give you another $250. Now, Keith, you understand me here. Now, you know he took about 2 weeks to say he was going to do it. He did not jump on it. I'm telling my wife, I'm like, bet. He's still thinking about it. I said I would double his money. Okay, all right, that's our child.
Well, he saw them sneakers he wanted to purchase or whatever else.
Right,
He's looking
and that's what he said. He had a video game he was thinking about. He was thinking
oh,
about
video
a
game.
new
Okay.
video game that came out. I said, all right.
Yeah, Madden or NBA 2K was probably coming out.
Yeah, he's a big MLB. He's a big MLB.
Oh, MLB. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
he baseball man too. He took his sweet time. I said, all right. He took his sweet time, and then I matched it. Right, I gave him $250, so he had $500 to investment. What did you want to buy when that time? What more did you want to buy of?
I wanted to buy more of my ETF QQQ because it was doing so well.
Okay.
That's what did you buy instead?
But instead, I had to have my dad said my account had to have diversification. Okay. So he told me I had, he showed me another ETF called VTI that was a little smaller than QQQ that had a lot of similar holdings. Amazon, Alphabet, Microsoft, similar holdings, but it wasn't as much price per share. Right. So every time I'm tracking it, every time QQQ is down $8, VTI is down like $3. But vice versa, every time QQQ is up like 10, VTI is up like 3. So it's like, it's a take and give, but it helps my account be more balanced and have more diversification when I added VTI into my holdings.
Right. Because if one loses, you don't lose all in just one. It makes sense. That's fantastic. So diversification is key. And then any other one more concept that you think?
Yeah, one other thing I would say is understanding unrealized gain and unrealized losses, which is basically profit and losses. But when you say unrealized gain or unrealized loss, that's money, like that's a daily gain that it's a gain or it can be a loss, but it's not realized until you take it out your account.
Right.
So it's sort of like profit and loss. So if you understand that, so you may see your account is doing really well, but if you don't take that money out, it's not really a profit. So understanding the profits and the losses and how it works in the stock market is a little bit different than, let's say, if you're in a regular business and it probably is your profit because you realize it. When the stock market, until you sell those shares, it's an unrealized gain or unrealized loss.
Right. Yeah, and the whole buy and hold strategy and everything else. Yeah, makes sense. And then, I know because I know you focused more with beginning investors, but if there are some intermediate investors that may be on the line, is there any tips, one or two, that you would provide them to kind of help them go to the next level?
Yeah, if I was to say, I know some people are not doing this already, I would definitely take a look at ETFs. Some people it's not enough, I think, of us are investing in exchange traded funds. So we may do mutual funds more so over ETFs. Some mutual funds are way more popular, but there are different trading techniques with ETFs and mutual trading advantages between the ETF and a mutual fund. And I think if you could consider looking at those, and as an intermediate investor, you might even want to shift to something totally different, like real estate. My wife and I that's how I paid off my student loans. I paid off my student loans by investing in real estate and the stock market. So I think real estate is also a very good avenue. And if again, for intermediate investor, if you can ever understand angel investing, like venture capitalist investing, and that was one of the main reasons I wanted to, and it still is, I haven't changed, it's just my time frame has changed, is with investment clubs, is to teach us to get more of us involved with angel investing, because I think that you can make a lot of money, but you just have to have a knowledge and understanding that you might just not get your money back. But if let's say if you can wait 10 to 15 years, when you get your money, you really get your money when you're doing an angel investing. But it's a big risk involved.
Right, right. Thank you. So I know that we talked about your whole primary purpose is to help communities um, start investment clubs, disadvantaged communities. So one of the things I wanted to get kind of your opinion on is that that's almost a paradigm shift that communities have to do in order to do that. So do you, what do you feel? How do you feel about that? And what are some of the things you've had to do? I guess especially in trying to get communities to even buy into the Junior Wall Street program. What are some of the things that you've had to kind of help communities understand?
Yeah, don't get me wrong, Keith. Investment clubs for underserved communities is really tough, right? But it may be tougher for adults, but I think kids, if we teach the kids early on, because they have enough time that they can learn it early, and then when they become adults, right? So, um, but I think it's very important for us to understand that you can have, and I didn't always feel this way. I just once we got more involved with Junior Washington, I realized that it's just not a. Some people just have a lot of fear and don't really have the funds, right? But I still would encourage people to start some type of club or to improve your education. Though, how else are you going to become financially literate if you just waiting for someone to give you that education? So if you have a family, you have some family members that would just want to get together and learn more, you can teach each other, right? So, one of our issues as a community is sometimes we don't have enough life insurance, right? We'd like to say we have enough to kind of cover a funeral, but there's some communities out there that leave inheritances through their life insurance policy. They get $1 million policies when they're young, and they pass that on to their family. So these clubs, right, are a good way to educate ourselves, and you could take turns bringing in different topics. Like one day, a member could bring in information about Apple stock. Now you hear a lot about this AI stuff, right? Sometimes we just let this information go by us, right? But
Mm-hmm.
like Nvidia this week, I mean, I don't know Nvidia how many that's a popular AI stock, man. I think they may have gained $50 a share this week alone.
Mm.
So if you that information can be shared like in a small group, like AI, okay. And what I did, Keith, I took Kamari. We went to a baseball tournament this summer in Pittsburgh, right? And we called room service, the front desk actually, to get more towels delivered to the room because they didn't realize we had 3 people in the room. And do you know, Keith, a robot? If I was able to share you the robot, a robot brought the towels
Wow,
to us.
stop. Are you
Yeah,
serious?
a robot. And I came back and I showed the kids, and I'm like all excited. I'm like, look, guys, a robot delivered the towels, and I
Oh,
was
that's
and I was videotaping it. It went right back to the elevator, went downstairs, and went back to the front desk. I'm freaking out,
that's
right? So I
scary.
get it's crazy, right? So I get the name of the company and I take it back to the kids, and we're just like dissecting it. The company is not even a public company. So that's what I mean about angel investing. If you
Right.
invest in a company, potentially, why it's not even public, what could happen, right? But this is how we teach the kids, right? We like to say, look, this robot, one, okay, we know 98%, according to Dr. George Fraser, said 98% of the wealthiest people in this country made their wealth off the stock market. Warren Buffett, either buying and selling stocks, or like
Hmm.
people like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, owning a company and then taking it public,
Right.
right?
Right.
So this is why this information with the kids, right? We realized that since we hit a roadblock, we had to pivot because adults were not like trying to sign up and start investment clubs. So that's how Junior Wall Street really came about. We
Mm.
had to pivot, and I just said, look, can we help our communities by focusing on the kids? And so some of these parents, that they knew if they didn't want the information themselves, or if they weren't concerned, they wanted their kids to have the information. At least their kids can have the information. And what we found that was some of those same parents were listening on to our lesson. Now we got one of our parents on. She did another one on me. Kent. She just gave me a whole nother idea. I tried this. I shouldn't say new, but she took the class with her two sons, and they were only like, I want to say, I hope she's gonna get me on this. I don't remember the ages, but like I want to say 8 and 12 or 9 and
Okay.
12.
Right.
Now that teaching a class with a family structure, those
Right.
little boys, man, they will, and she like used to go over the information after class. Can you imagine where they're gonna be? Those two little boys, 5, 6 years down the road, they're gonna be the new Kamaris.
Right. Right.
You together? Oh man, it was just them sitting there and she just going over, and she was learning and participating too. It was just such a fascinating experience. So, but what my goal with the investment clubs with the kids is like, so they know, like, right? You hear a lot about. Well, people say, well, don't go to school, college, because you're gonna have to take out these loans, this and that, these school loans. I'm like, look, you take out loans and you get that education because you're going to form an investment club and you're going to pay off those loans sooner rather than later. You're going to
Right.
buy your first house with that investment club money. You know why I say that, Keith? We sending our son to a private school. You know what 50% of that money coming from? Our investment club.
Oh
We
wow.
ain't rich. It is
That's
coming
right.
from our investment club, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's powerful communication just to add to families because I really, I mean, deep down kicked myself that we didn't stick ours out because there was some of those stocks that we had Amazon back when Amazon was just selling books. We had
Yeah.
AMT. I forget, but there were some that we had that are still around, some that aren't. But if we would have just stayed with it, some of us, and even down, maybe we might have had to downgrade how much we invested, but just keeping it would have
Yeah.
made a whole would have made a difference. So, so I mean, I would even say that to those investment clubs out there, as hold on to that, keep it going, figure if you have to restructure, figure it out. But yeah, so that's great. That's great stuff. So before we go, I have one more question, but before we get to that, how can anyone that's listening, if they want to get into the Junior Wallstreeter program or just know how to get involved and get guidance and support, how can they do so?
Yeah, Keith, I just want to say this before we go. I wish I would have mentioned this earlier, but at least we get a chance. I want to, as since this is a Black men podcast, I know not just for Black men, but I thank you again for having us. But I want to encourage all our brothers out there that are listening that just want to encourage you to get your prostate checked. Just the health thing. I'm still a survivor of prostate cancer.
Mm,
And I know a lot we don't like to take our health as Black men, and I just want to encourage just go ahead and get this, you have your prostate checked. And it ran in my family, and I didn't even like know until I was like sort of in the process. So I probably would have got it checked sooner, and I probably could have been diagnosed sooner,
right.
or did. I don't know if you could do things to prevent it, but at least that. Yeah, so we have a website, www.thebblackwallstreeter.com. We're on Instagram as Junior Wallstreeter, at the ampersand Junior Wallstreeter. And my motto is, regardless of your financial situation, you should be able to get a financial education. So we try to offer scholarships, and so I was told, it was suggested by several people that I should make Junior Wallstreeter a nonprofit because of the grant money that's available. Unfortunately, we haven't been given any grants. We've been denied many times, and but
Mm,
we've had people. I just solicit other lawyers just to because I'm just that passionate that kids need this information. So I solicit people to make donations, and this woman, like I said, out of Pittsburgh, she just donated a couple $1,000s to the organization to fund that. So I don't really care. Long as, and my only requirement is for the scholarship is that you attend the camp for the entire 2 weeks. Because the first week is just basic financial literacy, then the second week is all investing stuff. And just hang in there with us. We're still relatively new. And one thing that we do totally different that people need to understand about Junior Wallstreeters is we try to teach our course from an Afrocentric perspective. And kids really like that. I mean, when we do the end of the year evaluation, kids learning about Africa, learning about great dynasties, like our history before slavery. It's just so surprising how most of our kids don't know that. And
Right.
so we do an hour of that in our camp. And
Okay.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, we try, and I try to bring back my master's in African American studies. I try to implement that
Right.
throughout. I try to bring my whole self and sort of like into what we do. And we have our own curriculum too, so everyone know we're trying to get our curriculum into school systems. So we had several meetings. We're not there yet. Our most recent meeting was from a middle school in the south side of Chicago, and that's that type of population. So not only when I say Afrocentric perspective, Keith, I mean it's like we also teach kids like about their communities. Why does your community have a pawn shop and other communities don't? Why does Newark has check cashing places in other communities while Short Hills, Milburn, or whatever don't? Because people don't use them there. Because and it's like it's some of the things you think is like common sense. It's not like having a bank account, right? So some of this information is like try to get the kids to understand like you can make a direct impact like in your community. Like we know.
Right.
I know, Keith, I can talk about this for days, so I'm sorry.
I hear you. It's all good. It's all good. Well, here's my last question, and it's a surprise, but it's a little bit more deep. But I asked it for all my guests because we always as men working so hard to think about family and things like that nature, but we don't necessarily think about who we are as men. So my question is always, how are you feeling as Black men? Young man and an older gentleman. So Kamari, we'll start with you first. How are you feeling as a Black young man about to enter into your junior year in high school?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited, to start my junior year. Actually going to a new school, so chance to meet some new people and further my baseball career.
Okay, fantastic. And Dad, how are you feeling?
Yeah, it's always a challenge. I think I'm feeling good, but the way the current environment is. I'm just hopeful that things will work out. Like from a political spectrum, like it gets kind of scary. And raising a Black son, I don't. And now I try to tell him, right. Like he'll be driving soon. Like, what you got to do to like live? We got to. I don't take that for granted that he won't be stopped and I can lose him. Like, I tell him, hey man, a cop come, you got to listen to what that cop says. Put your hand on that steering wheel. So it just I want him to be safe. I want to be safe, but I'm hopeful that things will get better. But most important for me as a Black man, and this is what drives me, is I'm a lawyer full time, but this right here, Junior Wallstreeter, this is passion here. So this sort of like wakes me up. This brings me alive that I am doing something to empower our community, and we're striving to be our best. We may not be the best now, but we will get there. And I'll say that I have another brother from Newark, and I get to work with other Black men like this guy Vince Randolph from Newark. Man, that brother, he teaches our cryptocurrency class, Keith. And not only he like volunteers his time to teach our kids, he volunteered. He gave our entire people in our camp his own cryptocurrency to make sure they have all the kids that wanted it. So this organization has allowed me to work with people like him, and this brother named Kamal Hubbard did the same thing. he gave kids that took our cryptocurrency class last summer, he gave them Ethereum, which is one of the hottest cryptocurrency stocks. He gave them a few shares of that.
Mm.
So this, and even meeting people like you, like if brothers, we can keep working together to empower ourselves. That just makes me feel like Kamari has a really bright future, man. There are people out there. They're hard to find though. They not like just like I can't just reach out and get them, you know. But if we continue to work together, like you bringing us other, just saying that this is a good example that we are doing positive stuff. And we met sometimes we feel like, oh no, there's not one out there. No, my other good friend started a college counseling service. So like another brother, we're out there, and it gives me a lot of hope if we can start working together more to uplift each other.
Yes, thank you. And that's the main reason why I do what I do, in
Mm-hmm.
order to get these extraordinary things that you and your son are doing. So, uh, Kamari, Kevon, thank you guys for being on today. And I really look forward to hearing more about Black Wallstreeter Consultation Services as well as Junior Wall Street. Um, you guys are doing great things.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Well, that's it, folks. We'll see you. As you know, we do turn our live stream into a podcast, so you'll probably see it up on our um, wherever you find your favorite podcast in the next couple of weeks or so. So look forward to it, and we'll talk soon. You guys have a good holiday, and hope you in your summer safely and start your school years, for those that are in school, off really great. Thanks.